Hello and welcome once again to Crazy Comics and Stories. It's me, your charming and delightful old Uncle Rat Bastard. And at the other end of the series of tubes and wires we call the internets is Joe Crazy Writer. How you doing today, Joe?
Oh, I got it. Thank God I got it.
I don't know if I want to know what you got.
Oh, it's I put it on Facebook. I mean, you can take a look at it. I had actually, about a month or so ago, sent a note to the indomitable Fred Hembeck requesting his unique version of the Supergirl I collect. And he said I can do it either on a page or I can do it on a comic book cover. And I said, well, let's do it on a comic book cover. So I asked if he would draw the 70s Supergirl, you know, the V-neck, the puffy sleeves, the go-go pants, go-go boots. Hadn't heard from him in a month. So I sent him a note and I said, you know, just checking to see if you got the last note I sent you. I sent a few issue suggestions as to where you could find the cover version that I want, just seeing if things are going okay. And he sent a note saying, oh, I was afraid of this. When I brought it to the post office, they told me that I had the wrong zip code. So they changed the zip code, and now I'm not sure where it went. And I was like, I look back at my email, and I'm like, oh, I gave him the wrong email. I said, that's okay. I think I know where it might have gone. I'll check on it. So on my way that Thursday to the MCBA ComicCon, because you knew we were going to talk about the Comic-Con this episode, at least you did if you listened to last episode.
But it's no longer SpringCon or FallCon.
Those are past day words, but we're going to call it that because MSP ComicCon's a big mouthful. So, anyways, what I did, I called the post office that the zip code went to, and I talked to him, and I said, you know, I got this package. I think I gave him the wrong address. I just need to know where it went. Because there's a doppelganger address of mine on the other side of Wheelock Parkway. You know, I'm on 890 East. There's, I believe, an 890 West. And so I was looking for it, figuring I'd go knock on the door. And could not find it. Couldn't figure out where the package went. So I called the post office, gave the guy the tracking number, and he goes, oh, we delivered it to this address. And I was gobsmacked. They had delivered the package to my parents' old address. They haven't lived there in 15 years. I haven't lived there in almost 30. Well, definitely 27 because we just celebrated our 26th wedding anniversary. But that's after FallCon, so we'll get to that eventually. So I drove over. I was lucky enough to get off work. I switched a couple days. I took a couple days vacation. I went over. I knocked on the door. And as I was looking in, I said, oh, this is not good. There are more pizza boxes on the porch. There's about 500 pairs of shoes. I'm not sure if this package would have survived. Nobody answered the door, so I went over and I helped the boys set up SpringCon. I had my brand new truck, which I talked about last episode. Another reason to go download it and listen to it before you get to this one. Because I filled up my truck full of stuff. Basically what I do is I go through almost everything in the house, especially what's left of the two comic shops I've had, and I look for things that are really cool. For example, when I was in Granite City, I picked up a roll of superhero toilet paper for $3.99. I figured I'd bring it home, I'd put it in the toilet roll, just have kind of a joke for it.
Your definition of cool and mine are vastly different.
Very true, you pie eater. I can tell you when my wife saw it, she said, you really expect me to use this? It feels like sandpaper. My daughter just changed the roll. So what I did is I boxed it back up. And I brought it to SpringCon, and I gave her to FallCon, or whatever it is, and I gave it to the charity booth that Cory and I run during the thing. So I basically have a truckload full of this stuff. I've got the quad cab full. I've got the back full. So I drove over and unloaded everything. I set up what I could. I helped them. I got there late. Most of the tables were set up, so I just concentrated on getting the con stuff set up. On the way back, I figured, oh, what the hell? I went and knocked on the door. Still, nothing had moved, nothing had changed. And then, unfortunately, I think I woke some guy up, and he came to the door. And I got to admit, in this day and age, I don't really answer my door that much, so I was kind of happy he did. I stepped down and I said, this is going to sound odd. My name's Joe Ryder. When I was a kid in the 70s and 80s, I grew up in this house. It was my parents' house. They moved a long time ago. A friend of mine sent me a package to this address for some reason. And he goes, oh, that would have been Aaron, the guy who owns the house. He's not here right now. I said, oh, can I leave him a phone number? He could just call me and let me know what happened. Did he send it back? Did he throw it out? Whatever. Okay, so the guy disappeared. About 2-3 minutes later, he came back. He had the package. I was like, oh my God, thank you. Thank Aaron. You guys have no idea what this means. I rushed home. I opened it up, and there is my Superman Unchained blank variant cover, number 9, with a gorgeous Fred Hembeck Supergirl on it. So now I have one of each. I have a full-size, the original Supergirl, the headband Supergirl, and then I have the 70s one, the one that I liked. So my Comic-Con weekend started out awesome. Friday I went back. I brought a bunch of junk again. So I think I had like 4 carloads of stuff that I had dragged back, which is important because at the end of the con, I only have one truck. So how much of that crap I'm going to get back, I don't know. And that was pretty much the setup. I helped the boys set up Thursday, Friday. Of course, the dealers start showing up. And, one of the fun parts about being a volunteer is that you get to help set up. And then, of course, when the dealers come in, you get a first crack at some stuff. So you sometimes can get some pretty good deals. And, of course, my good buddy Pat was there for his final sale. Wait, 2 more finals. He's basically just gone through his collection, kind of like I've done off and on over the years. And he was just going to blow out stuff. He brought some of his best comics, including a run of John Byrne X-Men. He wasn't quite sure what to do with. He brought a lot of original art, which was really fun to look at. He bought some statues. He had a complete 7-Eleven cup set that he was not able to sell as a set, so he was breaking it up. He had some Pepsi glasses. So, and of course, as soon as he sets up, the dealers descend upon him like vultures going for carry-on, which is nothing like Oprah on a baked ham because she's more civilized about it. These guys are not. And of course, I'm helping Pat, so I'm looking through his stuff and grabbing stuff out as I need it. As we get to the end of the con and we start talking about things, I spent a lot of money buying stuff from Pat, things that I'll probably keep. Some things I'll keep, some things I'll probably put on eBay. When we get to Freaking, we'll talk more about some of that stuff. So we were set up. I had the charity booth ready to rock. And we got an unexpected surprise.
We did?
They found our good buddy Nick's Post comic book con stock. And the con guys weren't quite sure what to do with it. We're talking, these were a bunch of short boxes, I think probably 10 or 11 short boxes, Silver Age, tons of new variants, things like that. They thought maybe they'll talk to some of the bigger dealers that they like and see if they'll make an offer on it. I suggested, we could use it for charity. Nobody really knew what to do. I sat down and I talked with Brian. Brian explained to me what Nick would do. He brought these books to a con, and then, of course, he would promptly disappear, leaving Brian to watch the table. Nick had an annoying thing where he did not price a lot of his stuff because he would, depending on how he liked you, would depend on how he would price it. There were a lot of things that were priced. Cory and I both gawked at a couple of the shadow variants, They were retailer incentive things. One of them had a sketch from Alex Ross. And if you know anything about Alex, he doesn't do sketches. Nick slapped a price of $300 on it. We had people lowballing us all con, but we stuck. We did not sell it. It's going to go on eBay if you're interested. Or if you are, seriously, if you're interested, give me an email at crazycomics@gmail.com and we'll figure a way to get it to you. There was also the Jay Lee variant, hand sketch. And there were just tons of things. So I got a history of what it was. Talking with Brian, I kind of got the feeling that everybody just kind of said, they kind of figured, okay, Joe, you know comics, you deal with it. I was like, okay. I talked to one dealer there. I said, I know you made a blanket offer for everything. You were very specific that you wanted the Silver Age. You could sell it, and the new stuff you really didn't care about. I said, I would like to keep the new stuff. We would use it to charity. We sell it at the charity booth. We use it at the prize table. So if you want to go through and we're going to let you make an offer, cherry pick anything out of it you want, and then everything else we're just going to keep. And he agreed. He said, was there anything you took out of it? And I said, well, there was one thing I took. Long time ago, I had a copy of Knights of the Dinner Table #1. I'd actually gotten this comic from Dreamhaven back when he had his store above the drugstore in Dinkytown. I picked up copy 1, 2, and 4. Over the years, I ended up selling those comics to Nick. And Nick was always cool when you bought something. If he ever decided to sell it, he would give you rights of first buyback. So as I was going through, I ran across this copy, and I am 99.9% sure this is the copy I sold to Nick. And I told the guy who was buying the Silver Age this, I said, I kept this comic because I sold it to Nick years ago, and I just want it back. And he said, no problem, I understand. So I did get a copy of the Knights of the Dinner Table, like I said, and I'm pretty sure I bought it at Dreamhaven. I'm pretty sure I sold it to Nick. I got it back. So it's kind of a memento of sorts. Just some of the wheeling and dealing I used to do with our good buddy Nick. After the retailer took what he wanted, we brought the rest of it out to the table, and we just had a field day with it. It was basically $5 a pop. If Nick had a mark on it, it was half of that. And, we had stuff mixed in from previous cons. I brought a box of stuff. So we had a blast with it. I mean, I don't know, Corey, if I told you, but the first day alone, I think we made over $2,000 for charity.
Yes.
And
because I reported that on the Facebook.
Yep. And
do we know how much we made the second day?
No idea. Didn't even count it out. At the end of the day, I just gave him it. I mean, judging by what sold, I'd be pretty surprised if we hadn't done another $1,500. The other thing that we worked on, we had a couple things. The charity table absorbed the computer giveaway that the conboys were doing. And then next to that, the MCBA set up their first ever MCBA store. And what they did is they had a couple items, 3 different items that you could buy. The ComicCon book came with a fantastic cover with artwork by Christopher Herndon of he did kind of a Mars Attacks, the MCBA Comic-Con. And inside we had all the special guest creators as well as a list of all the creators, and in the very middle, a handy-dandy map that also included all the dealers. Because believe it or not, MSP ComicCon is getting big enough and filling that grandstand that you could go almost the entire con and either not run into somebody or never know where a certain guest artist was that you like. I thought they did a fantastic job on it. Some of the guys who worked on it said that they wanted to maybe make it a little bit more refined next year, so a little easier, but I thought it was fine. They listed some of the fun stuff. They listed the charities, the rummage sale that we worked on. This year they had a bunch of absolutely free kids activities. Drawing with Dwayne and Angie Barnhart, make a cape, more drawing, more make your own mini comics. So that was kind of fun. And then, of course, they had a panel schedule. Everything you needed in in a con program book. And of course they had enough. I don't know if they ran out or if they had enough for everybody. And then if you went to the MCBA store, you could get a sketch cover. And they only made 150 of them. I got number 150. And I also got a mock-up one that Butch had drawn on because people were looking at them and not realizing what they were. And I said, Butch, draw a sketch on this so people realize what they're doing. And he drew some stuff, which was kind of fun. The other thing they were selling was a print, the artwork by Christopher Herndon, which was a fantastic deal for $5. And plus Chris was there. You could walk over and have him autograph it. And then they also had T-shirts that they sold. Out of all the things they sold, the T-shirts pretty much almost sold out. During the course of the day, they brought up some of the T-shirts from previous years. They just sold them for $5. And then they also had a number of, how would you say, hot comics that you could buy. And that all went for the MCBA, and that's kind of their money to get FalCon going up. Next to the store was the Lupus Foundation, and they had a silent auction going with some statues and some comics and some things. I actually won some, and we'll talk about that later when we get to some of the geeky stuff. So we had our base of operation, the charity store. That's where we hid. People would come and hide stuff there. For as much as I work at the con, this had to have been one of the fastest shows I've ever been to. It just seemed like it just flew by. I don't think I got a chance to see hardly anybody that I wanted to see, but I did get to see a lot of people I hadn't planned on seeing. Now, you got there, did you show up Friday or did you come in Saturday?
No, I got there Friday.
Okay, it's all a blur now, 'cause
I got there Friday and got to chat with people, got to hang out with some folks, got to see the setup for the charity table. Joe actually, I hate to say it, but I'm going to give Joe a compliment. Joe is really good at merchandising a space. He's really good at putting stuff together and making it look nice. And I always take a picture of the charity table when it's fully set up because, 2 hours after we open,
it's hit.
Tons of stuff is gone. It looks like a disaster area. I'm already beat because I've had to actually talk to other human beings in person, which, we all know that I hate that.
And of course, it's always so confusing because with the exception of a few items, it's what do you want to give to charity? You decide what it's worth. We don't have a price on it. That really baffles people.
Although we didn't get it that much because we had all those trade paperbacks for $5 each.
Oh, yeah.
And all the comics. And we had someone come up real early on to buy a lot of the strange miscellaneous crap. We'll get to Saturday in a minute, but one thing I'm looking around, and I'd heard Butch was there, and I'm wandering back and forth, and then I go to where the panel room is, and there's Butch and one of the founders who helped, he and Nick owned it, literally, when as soon as I stepped down, they figured out we need to own this thing. It needs to be an actual thing that pays taxes and stuff. And they owned it. And then when Nick passed away, Brian sold his part to them, which probably, they gave him $1 or something because he just wanted out. Butch and Brian were just sitting in the back in the panel room on the couches chatting. And I sat down and we reminisced. And Brian complained about comics, and it was just like the old times.
And if you're not sure about how it sounded, just listen to Cory and I talk about DC or Convergence.
Oh, no. No, but Brian is actually quite angry at DC right now. Brian Wilson is a huge Lois Lane fan. Huge Lois Lane fan. And he
owns one of every comic.
He's pig biting mad.
You're the second person in the universe that's used that phrase. Pig biting mad.
He's pig biting mad that Lois Lane is the one who has let loose Superman's secret identity in the new DC universe.
And what's different in the DC universe now and I think it's been since John Byrne, Superman is Clark Kent. I mean, it's not like I was always amazed in the Silver Age. Clark Kent was just an identity. If somebody discovered it, Superman would go do another identity. But no, he's Clark Kent. Superman is the doppelganger, the disguised, you know. He thinks of himself as Clark Kent. So this is a big, big deal, you know. Whereas before it would have been, oh, Superman's Clark Kent. Well, Clark Kent disappeared. Superman's still around. Who are you now, Superman? And I didn't realize just that was happening until I read the free comic book day thing that DC tossed in their bundle. And I'm kind of like, ooh, this is kind of interesting. I might have to stick with Superman for a while, see how this plays out.
But that's what I did Friday. And a friend of the show and someone I hadn't seen in math. I know.
Don't do the
math.
Don't do the math.
Someone who I had not seen in over a decade.
Yikes.
Showed up, and I met Janet Perkins, and she looked like someone who'd been driving for 16 hours.
Which was fortunate because she'd been driving for 18 hours. So she was actually 2 hours up.
Yeah, she's doing great.
She's doing quite well,
but
yeah.
It was wonderful to see her, and like I talked about in the last episode, it didn't take long for us to get past the nostalgic part of it and get to we're friends now. We're not just people who used to know each other. And the problem was that I didn't get home till after 2 a.m, and I had to be back at the con at 8. So the convention was no sleep weekend.
Brian actually mentioned that. He says he kind of likes this now because he can show up when he wants, show up at noon, leave when he wants. There's no pressure. He's not in charge anymore. He shows, sets up, has fun, goes home.
So the day of the convention, by the way, I did look up the Alex Ross where he did an actual sketch.
Mm-hmm.
It's on eBay now for $500.
I know. People were like, I'll give you 100, 125. I said, no, you don't get it. This one's not being given away.
This is not a printed sketch. He took a pencil and sketched this on this cover.
Yes.
So I got to the convention around 8. Joe was already there. The donuts were already gone.
I actually dragged my daughter Holly there. She was in charge of the hospitality cart, so she kind of disappeared. And although she wasn't feeling good the second day, she didn't come back. But she took care of some business.
Took care of some business?
Yeah.
Did she off a guy?
I don't know. She was on her own. She's 15 years old. I'm not worried about her. You guys better be worried.
She shot a man in Reno just to watch him die.
No, that was a Dinah.
Oh, okay. And the charity table was hopping crazy for about 6 hours. The first 6 hours, it was crazy. Now, unconfirmed reports that have been in local publications are that there were 6,000 attendees at the convention.
Oh. I can believe that. That's probably about right. This year, the comic grandstand, usually it starts out really cool because, it's a big concrete, over 100-year-old building. But I think with the body heat coming in there, that place just warmed up real fast. I mean, in no time I was down to just the volunteer shirt. It used to be Cons Pass. I'd be wearing long sleeves halfway through the day. Now, you mentioned earlier, we had that a couple guys come through and they just went from one end to the other and picked out some of the really odd stuff at the con that the charity booth had. They would pick up the knickknacks, they'd pick up the soap, if it didn't have a set price on it, they'd pick up the hardcover books. They didn't really look too much at the comics because they looked at a few comics, picked up a couple old models that were together, picked up some folders, no ShamWows to be had, but by the time they were finished, they had 5 huge boxes filled. They picked up some original artwork that was there. They picked up a tub of toys. And they made an offer. I accepted, and I had a bunch of guys help bring them to the con. And then about that time, I think we'd finished dealing with Nick's deal, and we brought Nick's books out. And I got a chance to talk to these guys later, and I asked them, what I was thinking, maybe they do like a secondhand store or something. Nope, they're kind of repurposers. They go back to Chicago with their load of goodies, and they sell them or donate them or fix them up to charities in Chicago. So it's kind of neat the way that worked. It just kind of goes from one to the next and moves on to have a helpful life. And, they weren't picking up a lot of new stuff. They were just picking up things that had probably been sitting at the charity booth for a couple of years. So it's kind of nice that these things will move on and at least hopefully have another life. Was there anything at the con charity table, Corey, that, well, I don't know how to say this. What did you fixate on this year? There's always something you fixate on that just drives you crazy until you can get rid of it. And then when you finally get rid of it, you miss it.
Joe, I learned something this year. I learned something.
Uh-oh. Oh, did you run into Pie Man?
Yes, I did.
He was looking for you. He had a pie for you.
Okay. Sadly, it was not edible. I learned something this year, Joe. I learned never fall in love. Because when you fall in love, whatever you fall in love with goes away. The first thing I fell in love with was still in its original packaging, a Jar Jar Binks watch. I was sure we were going to be stuck with the Jar Jar Binks watch for the entire convention. Nope.
But no.
Nope. It sold before the doors opened. Somebody came up and said, I'll give you $10 for the Jar Jar Binks watch. And all I could think is, I wouldn't give you $10 for Jar Jar Binks. There's a cricket.
So much.
So after the Jar Jar Binks, I sat and yeah, pretty much until you pointed out, Cory, there's a novelization of the movie Ferris Bueller's Day Off. When I was a kid, I would actually buy novelizations of movies.
Oh, me too.
Because I knew my parents wouldn't take me to see things like Clash of the Titans or Alien
Jaws.
or... Yeah, well, Jaws was a book, then a movie. And actually one of my favorite writers when I was a kid was Alan Dean Foster, because I'd read his Star Trek stuff. And I guess he made a fortune off novelizations. But then I moved over. Oh, he writes other stuff that's not got Captain Kirk in it. But there was a novelization of Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Boing, boing.
And it sold.
Oh, I wanted to read that too.
And then behind me, hanging on our display, was a hedgehog that had a tail that made him very bouncy.
Bouncy.
It's one of those where you put him on something and then you pull him down and he would bounce up and down.
Donated by Holly, by the way.
And I said, well, my first two loves are gone. I guess all I have left is the hedgehog that keeps staring at me. Because people would, come up and take a picture and I would look at the picture and the hedgehog would be in the background staring at me.
Hedgehogs are notorious photobombers.
It was disturbing how he looked at me.
Well, you were the best dressed man in comics.
I have won the title yet again, although I've heard a rumor that someone may want to challenge my title. The only thing is, it's a girl. So she's not going to win, but I'm not going to break it to her.
No, 21st century. Don't be so hasty.
She can't be the best dressed man in comics if she's a woman.
If she dresses like a man, we'll judge her how she appears to be.
No.
Yes, those are the rules.
No, those aren't the rules.
Those are the rules.
We go by the Olympic rules, and there will be testing to make sure she is genetically a man.
Not happening.
Anyway.
You know nothing of transgenders.
Hedgehog. The hedgehog was staring at me, and I grudgingly decided, all right, the hedgehog will be my item. 10 minutes after I decided the hedgehog was my item, it sold.
Wah, wah, wah.
And for the rest of the convention, I sat at the table, dejected, brokenhearted, lost.
Don't fall
And I
in
learned.
love with a hedgehog, or George R. or Ferris Bueller.
And I learned this is the convention that I will not find love at the charity table.
But we did have a Hot Comics reunion. It was amazing. We had Butch there, of course, Big Mike, my old partner Pat, Dan Wiesemeyer, one of the original two owners, Brad Johnson, one of the original customers, and Jess Heitland, as I call him, Daddy Jess, because they just adopted a baby boy. Congratulations, Jess. All we needed was Dave Storberg, who was in town but didn't come to the Comic-Con, and the set would have been complete. So we got everybody together. We got a couple pictures, and of course, one of the highlights of the con, we reenacted the original ad for Crazy Retailer, Comic Retailer, with Pat, Butch, myself, Mike, and Jess. And by God, we hit all the expressions perfect. So that was a lot of fun. I mean, and you're talking about people I hadn't seen. Brad, Jess. I mean, we saw Jess a while back. Haven't seen Brad in ages. Joan Seaman was there. We used to know her as Joan Ewert. She was there. It was fun talking with her. So we had a bit of a blast hogging the aisles. Fortunately, we were in front of Dan Wiesenmeyer's booth because Dan was set up as an artist for that. So we didn't really block too much. And, of course, we had not only Jen Wicked, but Dangerous Dan Moore. And we recreated in our mind the immortal shot that now sits upon the official Crazy Comics and Stuff podcast page on Facebook of all of us together at the con. And that will be our official yearly portrait. And I think I got the better deal because I actually got to hug Jim.
And I was in the Scott Hall pose.
And Dan was looking at the what the F are you doing pose.
You know, the thing is, that picture's so good, I don't think I'm going to have another picture taken of me till October.
Oh, yeah, it's been a while. Although we've never replaced the profile picture. I think we'll just leave that one as it is.
That has to stay because we are the Rat Bastards.
Very true.
I did walk around a bit and look at stuff. I was really amazed that there weren't a lot of cheap trade paperbacks or cheap hardcovers. And I talked to a couple of the dealers, and they said that both Marvel and DC have kind of cleaned out their inventory, and they're printing much closer to orders now. So there aren't going to be as many of the archives and omnibuses and hardcovers and stuff that they are dumping through Diamond's liquidation sales.
So what you're saying is if you see it, buy it, because otherwise it's going to be expensive on eBay, kind of like all the essentials are starting to do.
Yeah.
Very interesting. You heard it here first, people. Your retirement fund will be totally graphic novels from here on out.
I did buy one thing from a dealer fairly cheap that I'd been looking for a while, and that was the Steve Ditko Omnibus Volume 2 that DC put out. And in it was a whole lot of Steve Ditko stuff I had never read.
So you're two for two. You got some stuff from Granite City, and you got some stuff at the con.
Yeah. And the thing that got me is I'm reading through this, and I go, why is there a Legion of Superheroes story? I had completely forgot that Ditko had done like a 3-4 issue run on Legion of Superheroes. Boy, I would have loved to hear the negotiations behind that. And the graphic novels that were at the table, there were a bunch that I thought, for this price, I'll pick up these Boom, they're standalone graphic novels that they take into studios and pitch as movies. And I thought, I'll pick up some of these. I haven't read them before. I didn't get a lot of cheap reads, but talking to dealers, the one thing that they reported was that the really hot books, nobody was looking for that. They were looking to fill in runs. They were looking for, cheap comics. They were looking for what came out over the last month or so. The back issue market has really shifted. I didn't get a chance to talk to a lot of the people who sold the Golden and Silver Age stuff, but I heard that there were some major Silver Age sales, kind of second and third hand, that people were buying some really expensive key books. So there were people who showed up with money in their pocket ready to spend. I didn't talk to a single dealer who did and I didn't make any money at this convention.
Now, I should mention, we talked about the graphic novels that we had at the table. These were donated by Jamie from Graham Crack. He basically set up a whole shrink wrap bundle to the guys. I think they started out with, it was either 20 or 25 long boxes of graphic novels. What the guys had done with them is they went through and they picked out pretty much all age appropriate stuff, and they put one in every single grab bag that they put away. Even with all that done, I still think I ended up with, what did I have, about 10 long boxes of graphic novels?
Oh, more than that. We had probably 15.
And we basically $5 a piece. Just blew them out. It was $5 a piece, 3 for $10. Because I don't know if you know this about graphic novels. They're heavy. I didn't want to store them. The second day we dropped it to $1, and I think I ended up with 4 boxes of graphic novels and 1 box of like the weird size stuff, from paperbacks to odd book size and things like that. And the con guys basically told me, you know what, if you're going to store them, great. If not, bring them to half price, do something with them. But I'm going to make a deal to all of our listeners out there. And again, all you got to do is just email your address to Cory or I, and I will pick one of these graphic novels and send it to you. We should tell you the graphic novels that we have are mostly, rated T or mature readers things. So if you're looking for something, the 2 I kept, I've got The Ultimate Human, which from the Ultimate Universe is basically the fight between the Hulk and Ultimate Iron Man, which I think they might have aped some of it in the Avengers movie. Then I picked up The Hills Have Eyes, The Beginning. Those are the only 2 graphic novels that I actually picked up. I went through those graphic novels dozens of times. I was helping the boys load the books, pick out the books that were, mature readers, because we don't want to, give a grab bag to a kid and then have them read something like The Hills Have Eyes. So
why not traumatize them?
Why
it's
not?
Good for them.
Yeah, bring them to a con again. So I didn't really pick up a lot of graphic novels. One of my first stops I did do, I stopped over to our old pal Mark Stegbauer, because he had done his own copies of Dr. Goyle through Hound Comics, his own print. And
No, Hound Comics, we're reviewing their books,
Well, I picked up 1 and 2 over the last couple of cons, but I never picked up 3 and 4. So Mark had them there. I picked them up direct from him. He autographed them for me. And let's see, it's Mark Stegbauer, writer, pencils, inks. Lisa Kurtz, the colorist. Andrew Harmon, lettering. And then Matthew Hill does some cool pinups. He also had a book from Redbud Studios called Ron Frontier's Tales of the Macabre. And he had done a story in there as well. So that was kind of fun, just to finish up a run. And like I said, I'll read this and give you a quick review on it whenever I get around to reading things. I got a whole run of Spider-Man I still got to read.
You do know his marriage didn't happen, right?
Mark? No, I'm pretty sure he's still together.
Spoilers.
I'm just digging through my box of stuff. I did stop by Doug Peck, I can't say his name, the Arsenic Lullaby guy. Douglas Petzowitz. What do I care? He was drunk as hell Saturday night anyways. He probably couldn't even say his name. He had a limited edition mini comic for ComicCon. And what was nice is when you bought it, he would put a quick sketch on the back cover and number it. So I was able to pick up a copy of that. Joel Thingvall was there. Joel is a longtime member of the Twin Cities comic community. He's also keeping himself busy acting. He was in a movie where apparently a bunch of insects attacked the Minneapolis-St. Paul area. Insecula. So if you go to www.insecula.com, you can see him. And, of course, he played the character Lobo. And, of course,
Lobo
has no friends. So when I had him sign Lobo, and he wrote to Joe, my friend. So
that's nice.
Lobo has a friend. And, of course, you can either go out and buy the DVD or stream it. And one of these days, Cory and I will both watch it, and we'll give you a quick review on it. And, of course, if you beat us to it, let us know what you think of it. Send a quick drop to Joel. Let him know what you think. And we keep coming around talking about Jen. I did buy some stuff from her, too. She had a really cool book. It's the best of crap I drew on my lunch break. And, of course, it says this book has some bad words in it. And I was always a big fan of this book. I actually have the two books she published through Cafe Press, which apparently she doesn't mention much. I shouldn't say I have them. I think my daughters have them, and they love it, too. I picked up a postcard of her looking most annoyed, which is... Somehow I kind of like that. It's her and her Christmas thing, bah humbug. And I picked up 2 cute rat stickers because we used to have rats. So I was able to pick up some stuff from her. The only other creator-owned thing that I picked up, and I always feel bad because I really want to spend some time picking up creator stuff. I was walking by and something caught my eye. Red ink, Swerved, a story about love, wrestling, and curveball. Story and art by Daniel Olson. I mean, how could I not pick that up? He's got wrestling right on the cover. It could have nothing to do with wrestling, and I'd still pick it up. Fortunately, it does. And I'll read off the back cover here. It says, Neil Wilson is your typical teenager in his final year of high school. As his senior year winds down, he has to deal with the death of his best friend, uninterested love interests, and an uncertain future. To combat this, Neil faces his future by promoting a professional wrestling event. Dude, you had me at professional wrestling. So that was actually the first thing I bought. And the fun thing about all this stuff is that these guys are gracious, fun to talk to, and they autograph and put little sketches in it if they're so designed. And let's see. Just looking to see if he has a website on there you can go to. Maybe not. Anyways, just look up Swerved, Daniel Olson. You should be able to find it. And I'm sure if you can find him, he's more than willing to sell you a copy. I'm actually looking forward to reading this one. When you were cruising, Cory, did you find any creator-owned stuff that you liked or picked up?
I didn't get much of a chance because if I would be out on the floor, one of two things would happen. I would run into someone who knew me from the shop or knew me from previous cons and wanted to chat, or this happened 3 separate times, Joe. I 3 separate times. People who've been with the convention since very early on would come up to me and think that I was still in the position I had back in prehistory, and complain about things. You really got to do something about the fact that the floor here is so damp and there are puddles and it's really bad. Or one person, I swear to God, who was with the convention from day one, came up to me and said, you guys need to bring in celebrities like the Wizard World folk because I don't think you're getting enough people in here. I smiled and nodded and went on my way to the restroom.
There's a reason we don't. because we're not Wizard World.
Right. We don't want celebrity. We've had one celebrity, and she was nice, but we didn't bring her in. We're not a celebrity convention. We're not an autograph mill. We are a comic book convention. There were 250 creators there. I think that's huge. There were tons of people who were doing sketches for $10, $15. I would stop by, ask them how they were doing. The people who were doing the $10, $20 sketches, got to give some of these indie artists some information here. They walked out of there with a whole lot of money.
Oh, yeah.
They would just do a quick head sketch of a kid, or especially parents and kids would come up, want a head sketch, or want a sketch of this, or want a Batman sketch, or whatever. I didn't get a chance to talk to any of the big name artists, the people who had lines and stuff like that, so I don't know how they did. But especially the two artists sitting next to us, one of whom is a friend of mine from long back, Anna. They both, they never had a line, but they always had stuff to do. I haven't had a chance to talk to Dan yet about how he did, but he was very happy with the convention, had a really good time.
How did Jen do? Did you get a chance to talk with her?
She sold more books than she thought. She sold a few of the, she calls them the Sharpie drawings she does.
Mm-hmm.
I think once she kind of builds her fan base back, which she's really doing a good job on, I think that when she comes back next year, she'll sell a lot more stuff. She'll also have more stuff to sell, and she'll have a better presentation. She was sitting next to a friend of the show, Stephanie Kofel, who this is her last convention as a creator.
Aww.
Who she was blowing out all of her Archie trade paperbacks and her original hand-colored pages, and Stephanie did very well. Her and her husband would play guitar at the table, and she would sell stuff, and it sounds like that was a very fun table to hang out at. And by the time it got to Sunday night, I was fried.
Oh, I think we all were.
We packed up really quick, though. I got to give us that.
Yeah.
We were great at packing up.
Thanks to my wife coming in, we only brought back 2 carloads of stuff out of the 4 we originally bought. And a lot of that was the leftover books that we didn't sell out of Nick's Con stock, and only 5 boxes of the trade paperbacks we talked about. One thing that I did leave behind a lot of, I hate leaving empty comic boxes behind because I don't have a means to get new ones at wholesale prices, and they're damn expensive. However, they did find a good home. I showed them to Butch. He took them home.
There you go.
So I didn't feel, you're talking even Gruber was leaving boxes behind because he had a phenomenal con. He blew out all his comic books, all his trades, sold some big name pieces of art. He sold all of the cups he had. Matter of fact, as long as I'm blabbing about Gruber, let me talk about I spent more money at Pat's table because some of the stuff he pulls up is amazing. Some of it's things that nostalgia. I remember having it when we had Hot Comics and things like that. I picked up we've talked about Cross from Avatar. He had, if I can get the trading card out of the way, a limited edition 500 copy signature thing with Garth Ennis, Christian Zanier, and Jason Burrows. Kind of like an ash can almost. And then there was a sketch card cover with it. Picked up a Wizard Ace edition, number 94, which Wizard Ace at the time was the book you got if you bought 25 copies of Wizard or you mailed in a coupon or something. This had reprinted a giant size. I say that back. This one was X-Men 94, I believe. Speaking of giant size X-Men number 1, Pat sold his. I think I'm not sure what he got for it, but it was a beautiful book, and I looked at it briefly and I realized it's just not in the league that I need. Picked up a lot of signed stuff. Vengeance of Vampirella gold variant number 25, signed by Quesada, Amanda Palmer, and Jimmy Palmiotti. I got a signed copy of Carnal Comics, Taylor Wayne. I probably shouldn't have mentioned that. Leather edition of Cross Badlands number 25. A signed Jungle Girl Season 2 nude edition, signed by Mr. Choi, his art. I got a Vampirilla Platinum Zero, which they only made 900 copies of. Vampirilla number 0 gold, signed by Quesada and Palmiotti again. A Miss Marvel 1 in 2 billion variant, number 1. A book I didn't even know existed. Walking Dead Chromium variant, number 100. And I also picked up another Jungle Girl Season 2 nude number 4 variant. And of course, nude's the new thing. And just for the hell of it to read, I picked up a copy of Brave and Bold number 150. If you remember, that's the one where Batman and a question mark. Can you discover who my co-star is in this special story?
It was the Thing.
Okay. I'm not going to ruin it, but it wasn't the Thing.
Spider-Man.
I picked up Action Comics number 481 and 482. Cory, do you know what's
Scooby-Doo.
cool about that?
There are over 400.
And they had, it's a bird, it's a plane, it's the Supermobile.
Oh, dear God.
I know. I bought the little Corgi Jr. car of it a while back, and this is I believe the only 2 issues that appeared. If you remember, there was like red kryptonite radiation blanketed the Earth, and Superman lost his powers just as Amazon attacked. Well, with the plus of the help of the Supermobile. Well, okay, that's all I'm going to say. I just got to read it once. The only other thing I picked up from Pat, they had gold and silver holograms that Marvel gave to retailers commemorating the selling of the best comic of all time, X-Men number 1.
Oh, I remember those.
Yep. And Pat had, when they first come out, the gold sold. This is just the hologram. The hologram was basically, if you remember the way Jim Lee drew the cover, it was all a big connecting cover. There was a gold version, which you got, and that was going for $100. The silver version was going for $50. Now I think I gave Pat $25 for both. So the mighty have fallen. But this is just one of those things I picked up because I remember them, how hot they were when they came out. I remember selling X-Men 1. We weren't around when X-Men 1 came out, but we had found a box of them that apparently Dan and Brian had bought, and they never opened it. So we opened it up, and we were selling X-Men 1 for cover price. Even though at the time it was like a $20 book. Now it's probably back to $1. So, just to round out, I mentioned earlier the Lupus Foundation had a silent auction, and I won 2 things. I won a Avengers Assemble number 1 variant that Ken Hazer had done a signed and remarked edition. He only did 200 copies of it, and that's where they actually take a blank cover and draw on it. And then they had an Evangeline Convention special that had a sketch on it from Mariette Michaels. So I picked up both those, and the money, of course, went to charity, as opposed to the other stuff where the money went to group. Now, the last couple of cons, I haven't picked up much original art. But this time around, I actually did. I commissioned 2 pieces. The first one was from Hot Comics founder Dan Wiesenmeyer. He's working a lot with the logo stuff, if you remember the little logo characters in the movies and stuff.
You mean Lego?
Lego, logo, Lobo, it's all the same.
Lobo. Bring back Sheriff Lobo!
He did me a Supergirl in the style that I liked. So that was kind of neat. But I went over to see Rich Christopher of Bald Guy Studios, and I asked him to draw me a Supergirl in the classic pose, and he did, and it's gorgeous. And if you've ever seen any of Bald Guy Studios stuff, it is cheesecake with the most cheese you could possibly imagine. He always does a gorgeous piece for the charity art auction that sells big time. And I've actually picked up a few over the last couple of years, and this time I actually just had him commission me one. So when the actual charity art auction came around, I only won one thing. The comicbookdisplays.com. I don't know if you saw those guys, Cory, as you wandered through.
Yes.
They have these wonderful displays that you can put comics in. I actually haven't opened mine. You can kind of crinkle the shrink wrap. They gave them one of these to sell, and inside has an exclusive issue of Mercy Sparks from Devil's Due, who were there as well. And I think I got this for like $25. And I'm pretty sure if you go to comicbookdisplays.com, you can see the frames and the cool things that they sell. So I actually behaved myself at the art auction. There was a lot of cool stuff there. The only other thing I picked up, Dana, all the way from Italy, asked me if I would pick up a print that Christopher Jones was doing in remembrance. Nick Post, Kingpin of Comics, has a picture of Nick dressed up as our good friend, the Kingpin. So with that done, I was pretty much done. I should say thanks to Pat because he took a couple boxes of my stuff that I had brought. I brought by a lot of variants, some older hot comics, some newer hot comics. So although I spent about $400 at the con, I went home with about $200 because he sold some stuff for me. Big things that went. I had a very good copy of Shazam number 28. And if you remember, that's the big one that has Black Adam in it, the first Silver Age appearance, which is going sky high because of the upcoming movie that Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, is in. I also had a probably good to fair copy that I priced about $25. So those were kind of the two big things that sold. And like I said, Pat sold a bunch of other things for me. So, and then of course, when FallCon comes around, I'll reverse it. Hopefully I'll be selling, and then Pat will bring things for me to sell. I did pick up a couple other things, but I really can't talk about it because I have no idea if Dana, listens to this podcast over in Italy. But I will give you a hint what they were for. I have no idea when he'll stop dancing, but that's pretty much all I spent my money on. And, of course, when Dana gets home, it'll be waiting for her in her room.
We've been talking about this comic convention for over an hour, Joe.
I know, and we barely touched the surface. I didn't even get a chance to say goodbye to Ryan Stiles.
You have told the story of how you got the Ryan Stiles standee on the show, haven't you? Why, no, you haven't.
I have not.
That means it's time for Tales from the Shop. Tales from the Shop, ladies and gentlemen.
Nope, you didn't see that one coming, did you?
Nope.
Once upon a time, Ryan Stiles, very tall, very funny actor, comedian, all-around good guy. He did a promotion with Kinko's, which I believe now is FedEx Kinko's, or something like that. But anyways, back then it was just good old-fashioned Kinko's. I did a lot of my stuff for the shop at Kinko's. A lot of times when they were open 24/7, you could go in at 3 a.m. and print out like 1,000 copies of something you wanted to bring to, I don't know, say like SpringCon and give out flyers for your shop. Or when I made physical newsletters, that's where I would do it. I'd make an order. I'd show up at like noon. I'd say, I need this order. When do you need it? I can come back like tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. Oh, okay. Because they're used to people, I need it within an hour. I was like, whatever. But they did fantastic jobs. It was fairly economical. One day I walk in and, one of the guys who shopped at my shop was there, but I was stopped, utterly gobsmacked, because there was Ryan Stiles standing, smiling. I looked at the guy. His name was Charlie. I said, Charlie, don't even ask. He said, what? When this disappears, the stand-up of Ryan Stiles, don't even ask where it went. You're going to know. He goes, no, you can't take it. They'll get mad. I said, dude, I'm just telling you, it's gone. I'm going to take it. No, leave it. Please, just leave it. We need it. So every time for about 2 months I'd come in, I would just look at him. I said, did you talk to your boss? He said, no, the boss says we need it. I said, if it disappears, don't even ask. You're going to know where it went. One day, Charlie came in and he handed me a bag, and I opened it up, and here was this record album size cover with Ryan Stiles' face in it, his big smiling mug. with the words around it. Ryan Stiles, friend of Hot Comics. And it was actually on a nice piece of particle board, and he goes, now will you leave the stand-up alone? And I looked at it, I put it up on display, and I said, no promises. Finally, one day Charlie come walking in, and him and Ryan Stiles say, here, you can have him. The promotion's over. I told my boss she wanted it. He looked at me like I was nuts, and he brought it down to the shop. So it hung with me through the shop. When we finally did close, he went into my garage. When I opened up Crazy Comics, he was there at Crazy Comics for a while. But alas, once Crazy Comics closed, I put him in the garage and just kind of forgot old Ryan. I mean, he didn't mind. He went on to 2.5 Men and some other fun stuff. But
and he's back on Whose Line Is It Anyway?
I know. But I decided it's time to bring him out and bring him to the con to sell. So we propped him up at the wall. I put a sign on him, take me home. Sure enough, somebody did. And I lucked out. I ran into the lady who bought him, and I said, I got to tell you the story about old Ryan here. And she thought it was the goofiest thing she'd ever heard. Laughingly, of course. So I got a picture of me on the MCBA's Facebook page saying goodbye to an old pal.
Some people come back in your life, some go away.
Some just
Goodbye, Ryan.
hang out in your garage for 15 years until you finally sell them to somebody else.
Yeah. Bye, Ryan. You know who's not going away, Joe?
Who's that?
These guys, our sponsors. This show has sponsors, and those sponsors are our best friends. They can be your best friends, too. Our first sponsor is DreamHost.com. DreamHost.com is the best bar-none web host in the whole known universe. If you need a website, DreamHost.com is the host you need to go to. And if you use the code CRAYZ, K-R-A-Y-Z, you get $20 off your first year. Just go to DreamHost.com. Do you need healthy snacks? You probably do. We all do. How would you like them where they show up without you even having to order them? Where you just get a subscription, they show up so that when you've run out, they show up again. Graze.com has great healthy snacks, and you get a free box if you use the code CORYS3R5P. That's Cory S 3R5P. Your first box and your fifth box are free. If you're listening to this show, you're one of the smartest people in the whole known universe, and you're probably fed up with paying too much for razors. So join Dollar Shave Club. They deliver great blades every month for just a few bucks. No more schlepping to the drugstore, no more overpriced, ridiculous shave tech that you don't need. Razor plans start at just $3 a month. Check it out and let us know what you think. Just go to dollarshaveclub.com/crazy, K-R-A-Y-Z. If you'd like to advertise on Crazy Comics and Stories or the Solitaire Rose podcast, we'd love it. Just go ahead and email me at cory.strode@gmail.com, subject advertising. You can also send us emails there. We love to get them. We love to read them. And most of the time, we can build a whole show around a 3-line email. So go ahead and email us at cory.strode@gmail.com, or you can call or leave a message that we will play on the air at 952-856-0519. Thanks.
Cool. God, you're getting
I
good
like
with
how
those
that worked out.
segues. Yeah, I'm most impressed. So did you?
And now it's time for the thing we do every week.
Oh, except last week, because this was, part 2 of a mega-parter. So
Yeah, but it's still the week.
it is.
Freaking and geeking. Joe, what are you freaking on?
Cory, how's the sound in this sound room?
Well, when we started the podcast, you were way loud.
Yep. The room that used to be my beloved podcast room, my eBay room, my refuge from the world, my geek cave, because I don't think you can have a man cave with comics. It's being disassembled. A bit of an echo effect here because, as you know, my lovely daughter Dana is coming home after studying an entire year in Italy and getting her second degree done. She's already graduated with it. She's just finishing up. My daughter and Holly are going to go over and have a couple weeks in Italy and bring her home. And, of course, I can't wait to see what kind of Italian comics Dana brings me home. She was kind of bummed. They did go to the Avenger store, or the Avenger movie, and they got to see it a week before we did. They took the train and through the Channel to London. But
Bastards.
They wanted to go to I think they have a Harry Potter shop. And she figured since she had done so good and graduated, she was going to get her one of them wands at, what's her name? Hermione had. And plus next to that was a Doctor Who shop. And, of course, the one figure I don't have is the current Doctor. So I asked her to pick me up one of those. Alas, by the time they saw the movie, it would have been 45 minutes to go across town to these shops, another 45 to get back, and they would be real worried that they wouldn't catch the train back to Italy on time. So I didn't get that. A couple months ago, we talked about possibly resurrecting a portion of the show. Whose job is it anyways? As we listen to Cory ramble throughout life trying to find a real job. Alas, it's my turn now to maybe resurrect that segment. I'm going through that damnable testing that TSA makes me do. And true to course, I flunked once. I only get strike 2. And if I miss strike 2, I am unemployed. Isn't that great? They gave me, they have a scale as they rate you from 0 to 5. I got a 4.9. I've got stacks of thanks and accolades and plaques. You know, I've been all over town. Some of the earlier podcasts from Barrel, from Hawaii, from Alaska, from New York, wherever, I've been all over doing this. There are guys at TSA have been written up multiple times. They've been suspended multiple times. They've caused security incidents. They're still employed. I'm the one that might lose my job. It's a good thing I'm bald because I'd be ripping my hair out right now. If that's not enough, actually that is enough. That's pretty much all I'm freaking on. I'll test. By the time you hear this podcast, I will have tested and I will know, will I start my brand new life as a Walmart greeter and professional toy hack, stealing those hot toys and putting them on eBay, or will I still be with TSA?
Now, I have a question about this. You go through these tests, and you say that you have 2 strikes now, right?
Yeah, it used to be 3. It used to be you weren't fired at all. You might be demoted. You might be retrained. You might be, if you were checkpoint, you might be put in baggage, vice versa. Congress legislated in the act that created TSA that we have to be certified. TSA decides how we're certified. We could all be wearing pink socks and we're certified. They've decided to test the living hell out of us. Previously, it was 1 day, 2 hours of testing, you got it all done. And then you had an x-ray test. You had to learn the test on the baggage computers, the x-rays they use. This year, they decided to break everything up. So instead of testing once, I'm testing 4 different times, each time a chance to lose my job. So it's not, and then they have the balls to come around and ask, hey, why is the morale at TSA low? The sad part is the guys making these decisions aren't the guys wearing blue. Like in most corporate cultures, the ones that make the decisions that affect the workers aren't affected by this themselves. They like to say, well, Congress told us to do this. No, Congress said we have to be certified. I'm not arguing that. I'm just saying, how am I supposed to give my all to protect the American public from the bad guys at the airport if I'm worried about losing my job every quarter and then every year and so on for the past 13 years? So far, other people that have gone to strike 2, and there are not many of us, only one person's lost the job that I'm aware of. I don't know who it is. It's not somebody I knew personally. It is discouraging. It is my test to lose, though. I mean, if anybody's gone to college and done testing, you know what I'm talking about. You know, you've done the training, you've read the books. Now this is your chance to test. Might test good, might test bad. This is my chance to test. I'm not happy about it. It's just something I got to do. Or I'm going to win the lottery. I got to play that sucker tonight too, I think.
My question is, do the strikes ever fall off your record? Like, okay, it's been a year, it's been 2 years, they've fallen off the record and you've kind of got a clean slate.
They're not those type of strikes. They're basically a pass-fail test. So I'm up for a test. Let's say it's my X-ray test. I got two chances to pass it. If I don't pass either one, I'm fired. If I screw up the first one, pass the second one, I've passed. It doesn't haunt you again when it comes around next year.
Okay, that was my question.
So, like I said, it's a hurdle. It's a big ass hurdle. I've done it before this year, and it's kind of depressing because, I'm sitting there thinking, okay, I know the job. I know what I got to do. I know how to do it. My problem was when I did the first strike is I went in on a day I was sick. I should have taken the sick day. I was sick the day before. I thought it was it's a pussy thing to do. Oh, he's doing his yearly testing, so he called in sick. But I tried to do it. I saw the light at the end of the tunnel. I thought I'd pass. No, it was a train. It kind of floored me. So when it happened before a couple months ago, I was depressed as all heck. Now I'm just kind of like, que sera, sera, whatever will be, will be. So, like I said, by the time the next podcast comes around, I'll either be employed, I won't be employed. I'll be okay one way or another. And if I am unemployed, I'm going to be pimping eBay like I've never pimped it before.
Yep.
Hey, guess what I'm selling? Remember all this stuff I bought from Pat from the con? It's up on eBay now.
We have something kind of similar at the group home. We have what are known as med errors. If you make an error in giving one of the clients one of their medications, it's a strike. And I think it's if you have 5 in a year. Because at 3, you're given a verbal warning. Well, actually at 1, you're given a verbal warning, but if they don't write it down that they're giving you a warning, you get a strongly worded email that you're not competent and probably shouldn't be working there, and how could you possibly make this mistake? At 3, they're supposed to give you an actual verbal warning that, they give you a note to sign that says, we're giving you a verbal warning. But it's written, but it's verbal, but it's written, but it's verbal. At 4, you are given a written warning and have to go through med certification again. And at 5, you are supposed to be fired. This does not happen to everyone who makes those errors. But it does, they at least will say you can't pass medications and you can only fill in shifts. You can't have scheduled regular shifts. So my last medication error, since the new company bought us, I have had 2. My last medication error, because I wanted to check, was last August. And we'll get into why this is part of freaking now. Because my current, quote, full-time, unquote, job is only giving me 30 hours a week, I'm having to pick up extra shifts at the group home and work longer shifts on the weekends. This weekend, from Saturday to Sunday, I put in 27 hours, including an epic 15-hour shift on Sunday, where I passed all the medications and made all the meals. I am amazed that I did not screw up anybody's pills, because we have people, one person in the morning takes 14 separate medications. And we have 4 different times that we pass pills, and each time it's different pills and they're given at different times, and you get this pill at 8 in the morning and 8 at night, but this pill you get at 4 in the afternoon and 8 at night, and I had to keep track of all that, get it done with all that, and then, because you're in there alone with the client, this is their personal time with you, and they want to interact. By 8 o'clock Sunday, I didn't want to interact with anyone at all. Now, what made it worse, and this is a hanging at the home story, we have a resident there who gets very irritated very quickly and very easily. She spends most of her time in her room because she doesn't like other people. She's a little like me, I'm not as bad as that. But if somebody whistles, she yells at them because you shouldn't make that noise. She likes it when it's quiet when she's eating. So if people are having a conversation during supper, if she's in a bad mood, she's going to let you know that she likes it quiet when she eats.
Is she like that bear in the Tex Avery cartoon? Quiet, shut up, quiet.
Yes.
Hate noise, can't stand noise. What's the matter, you deaf or something?
Yep. We try very hard to have her eat either before or after everyone, but then she complains that we're not letting her, be with the other people. So we're stuck. So I made supper, and I looked at the menu, and the menu was, we were supposed to have chop suey from a can.
The best way to have it.
Canned green beans.
Ooh, the better way to have it.
Peaches, and I don't remember what else.
Were you going to the country to eat a lot of peaches?
I wish I could. So I like to make the food taste a little better. So rather than the chop suey from a can, I did use the canned bean sprouts and stuff, but I cut up carrots, I cut up celery, I cut up onion, I cut up bell pepper, I cut up all the vegetables that I could. I made the sauce. And Jen called me a food nerd. Yes, I've become a food nerd. I made the chop suey sauce. I made a roux. Second time in my life I've ever made a roux. I made a roux, and then I made a mix of soy sauce and chicken stock and thickened it with the roux so that it had that nice thick consistency. Put that on top, and then put the chicken in and shoved it in the oven and let it roast all afternoon. So that those flavors would intermix, so that the vegetables would be, very tender. And then the green beans, I found some frozen green beans, but even frozen green beans are kind of bland. So I took tomatoes, and I kind of crushed the tomatoes and got some just plain crushed tomato sauce, mixed those in with a bunch of garlic, and simmered the green beans in that for a while. Then went and did the medication pass, and then came out, and everybody was eating supper, and one of the staff who were leaving came back in and said, "My car won't start. Can you show me where the distributor cap is?" So I go out, and we are trying to get her hood open, and as I'm reaching under to find the hood latch, instead I feel a ripping in my hand, and I take my hand out, and one of my fingers has a huge gash on it because she had some jagged metal under the hood.
Up until the hand part, that almost sounded like something out of Penthouse Foreign.
Wait, did they still print Penthouse Forum?
I'm not sure.
Just, Joe, when you talk about Penthouse Forum, remember my rules. At age 19, you quit reading the letters to Penthouse Forum, and at age 17, you quit writing them. So my hand is looking like Mick Foley's face after a barbed wire match. I go back in. We are short-staffed, and the only staff who was there as residents were finishing up their dinner was someone who's in training, has only been working for 2 weeks. I walk in, and the resident who likes being alone and hates sound is screaming at one of the other residents and taking her wheelchair and running into the person's chair. Trying to, and I just come in and I see, and the new staff, the trainee staff, is in the kitchen in the corner, kind of looking like, oh my God, the world is ending. So I come over and I kind of push them apart. And I say to one, "Why don't you sit over there?" And I say to the one who doesn't like being around people, "You need to calm down. Would you like to go to your room?" She's holding, at this point, a glass of Kool-Aid. Full. She takes the Kool-Aid, in the glass and whips it at my head, cracking me in the forehead, covering me in Kool-Aid.
Oh, sweet.
And I say, all right, now this is an incident. Let's get you to your room. I wheel her to her room. And normally, Joe, I have an extra set of clothes in the car for when things like this happen.
Mm-hmm.
The convention was the weekend before.
And you probably used it.
I had cleaned out my car and forgotten that the bag, my little go bag for clothes, was at home under the kitchen table. So I go out to the car, and there are no clothes. So the last 4 hours of my shift, I'm in a shirt that's sticking to me because of the Kool-Aid. My pants are soaked,
hand.
and a hand that I had to wrap up. I didn't even get a chance to clean up my hand before I'm breaking the fight apart. So as the third staff comes in, and what happened? She sees Kool-Aid all over the floor, red Kool-Aid. She sees my hand covered in blood, and me between two residents.
I lost my spleen.
Oh my God, do I need to call the cops? No, you don't need to call the cops.
No, but don't yell, "Hey, Kool-Aid."
So that was my weekend. Plus, on top of that, my car was losing radiator fluid rapidly. And I knew it wasn't the radiator because I'd replaced that last fall. And I knew it wasn't the hoses because there was never a puddle under the car. Now, Joe, I've talked in the past. I'm very open about this. I have panic attacks.
Mm-hmm.
I have panic attacks about my car because car repairs are expensive. Car repairs mean you can't get to work. And I've had a number of situations in my life where my car has broken down in ways that have put me in severe danger. So all day Monday, I get the car home, I fill it with antifreeze, and I put in stop leak because my dad says put in stop leak, see if that solves the problem. Run the car for a while. I am in pure panic attack mode most of yesterday and a lot of today. When I get home today, I check the antifreeze, and it is at the same level it was when I filled it up yesterday. So for now, the car is okay. That's what I've been freaking on. Joe, what are you geeking on? What are you loving?
Well, you know how you make antifreeze. Take away her nightie.
You woke the crickets
Good.
up.
I want to make sure they're still around. I went back because a number
to the future
of, well, sort of, a number of podcasts ago, we met up with our old friend Christy of Christy Comics. And we had all gone to Walmart just because she wanted to go to Walmart. And while we were there, you talked about the different WWE wrestling DVDs they were blowing out that you picked up. And I didn't pick up anything because I'm never quite sure what I have. As part of the MCBA charity store that we did, my family and I went through all the DVDs and just basically, if we didn't care about it, we got rid of it. I mean, in all seriousness, we're looking. Well, I'll give you an example. My wife's X-Files collection, she just said, I watch it on Netflix. Get rid of it. We don't need it. So I got a chance to inventory everything. I discovered I had Attitude Era number 1, did not have number 2. Went back to Walmart, they're gone. At least the one I went to, they're gone. Yeah, either the promotion is done, they went through, they cycled through. However, they had something new.
Oh.
The Adventures of Briscoe County Jr., the complete series for $10. One that I've been eyeballing for $60 on eBay. And one that I've been eyeballing for $40 on deep discount DVD. I have it for $10. And of course, it's got Bruce Campbell in it. That's all I have to say about that. Cory, fetch me my bucket.
Uh-oh. Why, you gonna puke?
Nope. Invader Zim's coming back. It's coming to IDW. Oh, I cannot wait. It was one of the most bizarre shows I ever watched. I think Dana, well, I was aware of it because the creator, Johnny Vasquez, he did Johnny the Homicidal Maniac, which I've read off and on. It's one of those books with very small print, and I got to have a magnifying glass now to read it. But my daughter Dana just loved it. And so when Zim came out, she was all over it. And I can't say baked ham because she's a vegetarian, but she was definitely on it like Dr. Phil on quiche. So, and so we started watching it, and our whole family died. I mean, the Doom song, the Christmas song with the mighty boots of doom. I mean, it was hilarious. And of course, the show was short-lived because he apparently wanted to destroy a city, which wasn't really in vogue after 9/11. But it's coming back, and Johnny's part of it, and I can't wait because it's going to be a lot of fun. Speaking of comic books, I actually got around to reading some Hero comic books.
Wait, you read comics?
I know, shocking. And
they still publish those things?
And oddly enough, none of the ones I got from the con. As I was wading through my stuff, like I said, I brought about 2 short boxes for Pat to sell. I actually pulled a small selection of stuff that I wanted to read again. Some of it were things I think I've talked about before, such as the 3-issue series Babylon 5 in Valen's Name. This one was written by Straczynski. Peter David's got his name on it with issues 2 and 3. Art by Michael Collin, David Roach. If you know anything about Babylon 5, this basically deals with Babylon 4. And if you watch Babylon 5, that means a big thing. So I don't want to spoil anything else about it. And I'm not really giving away much because when you first start it, it's like the book starts with, we're receiving a signal from Babylon 4. And I reread it. It was a lot of fun. Like everything in Babylon 5, it all ties together. It gives out little hints. So it was a lot of fun to read. I dug out a copy of Batman 266. This one's significant to me because this one I read, I forget how I referred to it. PC, pre-collecting, before I actually got in the habit of going to a comic shop week after week and picking things up. I must have picked this up somewhere because it was just a Batman comic, and of course, it was done in one. You look at the back of it, and it did not have a to be continued on it, which was something I avoided with before I discovered comic shops. Story by Denny O'Neil, art by Irv Novick and Dick Giordano, and of course Julia Schwartz was editing it. It's a Catwoman story. Just deals with this is pre-crisis Batman, and it was a fun little story. It's something I remember. The book's not in tremendous shape, but it's just one of those I'm probably hang on to because, like I said, it just reminds me of, simpler times buying comics. Unlike non-simpler times like now when I dug out my copies of Andrew Voss Cross.
Ooh,
I think we've
loved that book.
I think we've talked about this one in the past, so I'm not going to talk much about it. But Andrew Voss is noted for his down and dirty fiction on such titles as Hard Looks, and in this 6-issue series, it's his character Marion Cross, and he is not a nice guy. He is not a guy with morals. He's just a guy who wants money. But he's a freelance troubleshooter, and he's the protagonist. So you find yourself, even though he is a bit immoral, you find yourself rooting for him. And all the characters in the book, I just find myself, these are the guys you're rooting for. And Andrew Voss is like, well, yeah, maybe, not necessarily. He just happens to be the way the story's written. So I don't know if Andrew's trying to write the character, which he's written, I guess, a lot of short stories with. I don't know if he's trying to make him unlikable, but I found the book very well read and fun to read. It's a 0 issue with 6 other copies. Not highly sought after, so you might be able to find it on eBay or Atomic Avenue cheap. And I think Cross appears in a Predator miniseries. That's his first comic book appearance. I can't remember. Race War, Predator Race War. So you can pick that up, and of course he's got books out there with the character in as well. I did read Convergence. I only have the 0 issue in the first 4. I actually enjoyed it. Other than, I always question, it's like, okay, you've got limited heroes doing limited things, and they're fighting, of course, the big bad guy. I've only read the Shazam Convergence issue, but from what I'm reading online, it sounds like all the crossovers are pretty much the same storyline. And if you haven't read Convergence, you want to bleep ahead forward because I'm going to kind of spoil it a little bit. But eventually, whatever the Brainiac is that's left behind decides that all these worlds that his big-time Brainiac has collected, he's got to see which one's worthy, so he pits them against each other. So in the 2-issue Convergence series, it starts out with a you must fight to prove yourself worthy. The heroes, of course, don't have their powers. They get their powers back. They defeat the villain. And then into the second issues, which I don't have yet, that's when the battle with the other worlds begin. The Shazam issue I read was fun because it returned to the Captain Marvel I grew up with, the one that came back in the Silver Age that C.C. Beck had done. They talk about where he'd been for 20 years, all this stuff, and, of course, the big part when they finally realize, oh, yeah, Billy's got his power back. And he looks at them villains square in the eye and says, Shazam. Turn the page, and boom, it explodes as he transforms. I mean, that's the type of stuff like I geek about that I love about comics. It can only work in a comic, maybe in a movie. That might be a pretty cool thing in comics. As I slowly wade through my books again and decide which ones to sell, which ones not to, I stop and I reread things. And I was picking up copies of Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, which was written by Peter David before that whole Brand New Day stuff. I picked up a few issues to read. I picked up number 5, which was a story about a lady who swears that she's being stalked by Spider-Man, even going to the point of suing him. And, of course, it ends up with a kind of a twist ending. What a twist! So I won't reveal it. I picked out copy number 14, 15, and 16, where this happened right after Spider-Man was unmasked. And the storyline I wanted to read was about, I can't think of her. Deb Whitman was her name? Old boyfriend of...
Yes.
And she writes a book about Two-Face, how Peter Parker ruined my life. And it's not quite the book she wrote because, baby, we got to spice it up for the readers, you know what I mean? In the meantime, the Vulture's attacked while he's at the book signing, and it was just kind of a fun 3-issue. And then the last one I read was issue number 23, which was actually the last issue of the series before they did the One More Day crossover. And this is the showdown between J. Jonah Jameson and Peter Parker. After he was revealed to be Spider-Man, after Jameson fired him, he sued Peter Parker. Parker was back in his black costume, and apparently he made a deal with the devil and all disappeared, never happened. But the books are still there. They were fun to read. And as I go through my collection, I find myself, digging out other gems that I want to read. I've got like Deep Fried. I've got the entire run of Amazing Man from DC. A couple other just onesie-twosies. These may be books I may end up just keeping just because I like reading them. Of course, with Marvel Unlimited, I may not have to. That's pretty much what I've been geeking on. Cory, what are you geeking on? What's got you happy? What's got you going better than a refrigerator full of pie and nowhere to go for the weekend?
Oh, that's a dream, man.
I told you, this is Geeking. We got to get you charged up.
Joe, have you read Secret Wars 2?
There was a, a variant copy for sale at the charity booth. I took it home, read it. I did read it.
This is the first time.
This is fun.
This is the first time in the history of the character I have liked Mr. Sinister. I always thought Mr. Sinister was a stupid name, a boring idea, and a pain-in-the-ass mysterious character that had no relevance at all. I like Mr. Sinister now. I think a while back I said, it's been a long time since we've had a good Doctor Doom story. We really need a good Doctor Doom story. Secret Wars is a good Doctor Doom story. And then the end with the Cabal showing up. Anybody who says that Marvel's big events and Jonathan Hickman stuff doesn't pay off, you're wrong. You're dead wrong. You're damn wrong.
Dead wrong. Don't even ask. You're wrong.
Awesome. This book can't come out fast enough for me. If it came out every day, it wouldn't be fast enough for me. I cannot wait to see where they're going with this.
Almost got me excited enough to pick up all the crossovers. But after seeing some of the other crossovers, I decided
my God, there's
not
too
to.
many.
I know. And I could never tell, and this is what kept me from buying them all. With Convergence, it was a 1-2 over with. Some of these, I don't know, are these regular ongoing series? Are they just one-shots visiting the concept? Are they things coming back? The only one I didn't pick up that I may pick up after checking it out is the Old Man Logan, because I kind of like the idea of just like a Clint Eastwood type character just wandering across this hodgepodge world, and no matter what happens, he's going to prevail.
A lot of this, what it was, is they're going into Secret Wars now that they're talking about process more. They went to the creators and said, here's what's happening. You can either take your book and turn it into a Secret Wars tie-in book, as a mini series. Because if you notice, like the Spider-Man book is done by Dan Slott and the regular team, and stuff's being done by the regular team. So it's like with Age of Apocalypse, where it's okay, the book is continuing, but we're changing the name and on like that. Or you can, through Secret Wars, tell the story of your character dealing with the end of everything. So I like the fact that we're getting both. But that's why, look at all these miniseries. If you look at what Marvel published the month before and the month of Secret Wars, they're publishing the same number of books.
Yeah, that's not really the issue I have. The issue I never know, unless it says like the Ultimate book where it says 1 of 5. I never know, okay, Guardians of Nowhere 1, is that a one-shot or an ongoing? Or is it limited? Or is it going to stick around when the Marvel Universe reboots or what? It just, maybe they give away too much, but I'm not willing to invest in all these new series when I'm not even sure what happened to the old ones yet. I'll stick around for the miniseries, and I'm definitely in on the main event. But, even as I look at it, there's a few that I'm not quite sure what to do with. And what I'm hoping is I'll either find them cheap later on, or when they finally get to Marvel Unlimited, I'll just catch up that way. Because there are some things I'm interested in. I'd like to revisit Age of Apocalypse, Utopia, some of these other ones, but I don't have the funds to go everywhere. Although when I look at the battle map, that really gets me going.
Yeah. The second thing I want to bring up, Joe.
You want to bring me up?
No.
I'm honored.
One of the things that I try to do, because I'm trying to be a better person, I'm like Earl. My name is Earl. I'm just trying to be a better person.
That's a series I liked.
When I make a mistake, when I am in error, I try to go as public as I can about letting people know that I made a mistake. Do you remember what I said about the new Howard the Duck series?
No.
About how I really couldn't give less of a shit because it's not by Steve Gerber, and if it's not by Steve Gerber, I don't care.
I'm sure it's back there, but I don't recall.
I have now read the three issues of Howard the Duck that are out. I was wrong.
It's fun.
It's good. It's funny. It's snarky. It is not Gerber's Howard the Duck. It is a new version of Howard the Duck. It's not as personal as Gerber's Howard the Duck. It is more of a character who plays with the Marvel Universe nicely. Whereas Gerber just kind of had to be in the Marvel Universe, but really didn't want to be with Howard the Duck. This is a duck that fits in the Marvel Universe, and it's funny, and I like it, and I'm sorry.
I like the fact that he's in the same building as She-Hulk is.
Yes.
And there's somebody else that's in there, too. There's a third character that has their offices there, and I can't remember who it is. I'll think about it at 3 a.m. and I'll tweet you or something. Miss Marvel? No. Oh, well.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'll figure it out. To Marvel Unlimited.
There is a TV series on HBO I'm watching called Silicon Valley. I watched the first season and thought it was okay. The second season is really kicked into high gear. It's from Mike Judge, who did King of the Hill and the movie Office Space, and it's set in the world of tech. It's startup companies, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it's really funny, really dry, dark humor, and I'm really enjoying it. It's the one thing that's on right now that I'm really liking. And then the last thing I wanted to bring up, because we've been going on forever, I have read Kirby's Mob, In the Time of the Mob and Spirit World, which were the magazines he did for DC back in the early 70s. They only put out one issue, and the second issue was just kind of taken apart and stuff and put in other things. DC recently republished them in nice hardcover volumes, and I think DC really missed the boat because these were cool magazines that could have gotten much, much better. And that's what I'm geeking on.
Woo-hoo.
Well, believe it or not, kids, you've listened to us blather on about comics for over an hour and a half, and if you add the two shows up, it's almost 3 hours.
Well, considering it's only our second podcast of the month.
No. We had the pre-con show.
Yeah, but that was the
that was
first
pretty
podcast.
special.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah. So as we say every week, kids, the comic we like the least, we still like better than the comic you like the most. Joe?
Somebody call my mama, hit my music. I feel like dancing.
I've always wanted to play doctor.